All-in podcast on Elon's empire, the SpaceX IPO, and the, quote, 100% chance that SpaceX and Tesla merge.
SpaceX filed confidentially to go public, targeting a $1.75 trillion with the T valuation. When SpaceX goes public, if it's at that $1.75 trillion valuation, it's so weird to say trillion dollar valuation for an IPO, they would be the 8th largest company in the world, right behind TSMC and Saudi Aramco at the taping of this podcast. Tesla is number 10 with $1.37 trillion valuation. Hey, if you were to combine those two, as many people are speculating will happen at some point, and you can buy the stock ticker ELON.
Let's be real. I think everyone is speculating this will happen. It's just a matter of time.
That would be a $3.1 trillion company, and that would make them the 4th largest company ahead of Microsoft. They're aiming to raise about $75 billion.
To be clear, this is unconfirmed. We've heard all sorts of numbers thrown out there, none officially by SpaceX. However, now look, I would be very surprised if it's not at least $50 billion. I also wouldn't be surprised if it's $100 billion. I don't know anything, but just to be really clear, we don't actually know. SpaceX themselves have not said, we wish to raise X amount of money in our IPO. So all speculation. So too, the supposed valuation of $1.75 trillion. Could be 1.5, could be 2. We don't know. We will soon. But at this point in time, it's pure speculation.
Which would be by far the biggest raise ever in an IPO. Expected to go out in June. SpaceX recently acquired X.AI for $250 billion. That includes X and Twitter and the XAI large language model AI company Starlink, generating between 50 and 80% of SpaceX's revenue. We'll have all those details shortly. Close to $20 billion a year, according to reports. Launch of rockets is the other 40% of the business, $5 billion in 2024, according to reports. Total revenue, 2025, 15 to 16 billion, with $8 billion in profit, according to Reuters. Chamath, I think people really want to know, and you may have mentioned this on an earlier episode, what are the chances that Tesla, if this IPO goes well, that Tesla and SpaceX could wind up being the same company? We saw they're collaborating
100%
on a fab. 100% is what you're putting it up.
Absolutely no hesitation there from Chamath. What are the odds? 100%. And in fairness, it is hard to argue with this extremely confident prediction. The synergies are there. It's so obvious. Only a matter of time. I'm currently at 99.99999969420%. Big caveat, I don't think it happens immediately. Much more likely after, quote unquote, the market has factored in Tesla's true unassailable lead with generalized autonomy and start to value the company accordingly. But I do not see a scenario in which eventually SpaceX and Tesla are not folded into one entity. Apparently, Chamath and I are on the same page.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Let me be clear. 99.999%.
Okay. What will that mean if those two companies merge?
There's a bunch of tort that allows folks to hang around the hoop and get paid no matter what. You see this in all IPOs. Shareholder lawsuits abound, and they try to create a class out of it. And the reason they do that is that there's D&O insurance that then will pay out some number of millions of dollars. The attorneys take 40 or 50%, and then these plaintiffs get a few bucks. You saw how egregious this tort manipulation was when this guy with 10 shares sued Elon's comp package at Tesla and won. And what was that really? That was the trial lawyers trying to get paid hundreds of millions of dollars by exploiting a seam.
It was a shakedown. Call it what?
Is it just me, or did Chamath accidentally mispronounce vultures and say something like trial lawyers?
It was a shakedown. Why am I bringing this up? This SpaceX IPO is going to set up a couple of things. The first is there's going to be the natural noise in the market, and Elon will have to sort through all of the little ticky-tacky things. But the most important positive thing that will happen from the IPO is a validated external mark-to-market valuation of SpaceX. And the market every day in real time gives you a valid mark-to-market assessment of the value of Tesla. And this allows you to put these two things together to minimize these lawsuits. Yes. And I think that that's what Elon really needs. It'll make his life tremendously simpler from a governance perspective. It'll make the companies and this quibbling about his time a non-issue, because again, nobody talks about Zuck or Satya or Sundar or Jensen allocating time across various projects inside of Meta or Google or Microsoft or NVIDIA, nor should they really make this claim from Elon, because as you're seeing, there's actually an enormous overlap and commonality to the various things that he is doing. He's building the robots, but they're used inside of SpaceX. He's building a Terafab, they're used inside of Tesla. He's building XAI. They're used across both. So I think we need to do this. It'll minimize the shareholder noise because it'll give less room to somebody that says, hey, he set a valuation out of thin air. But dollars to donuts, these things are going to merge.
So Chamath, reiterating, is absolutely 100% they're going to merge. Made a few very important points too. Massively simplify Musk's life. It'll also be pretty hard for retarded forms of sentient hair gel manage money for people over in California to claim Elon's distracted or he should be spending more time here or there when everything ends up under the one roof. And also, just from a company structure and efficiency point of view, we've seen this recently with SpaceX acquiring XAI. Many people, there were duplicate roles at both companies. One became redundant, and so did the person previously in one of those roles. This is good for investors, a more efficient and streamlined company.
These things are going to merge.
And it speaks to the singularity that's going on right now. You had a car company, you had a space company. Okay, that was how do those two things overlap? And it's like AI, data centers in space, where do you get chips from? And then actually going to raw materials inside of one factory, going out the other, and having discussed it with Elon many times, what he learned, at Tesla or SpaceX about advanced materials informed different products at the different companies. And now you'll have all of that in one place. And then you think about the brain trust that he built at those two companies, plus Boring Company, plus Neuralink. If they're all in there, all this cross-disciplinary learning is going to compound and compound and compound.
This is an excellent point from Jason. I mean, really, the Musk empire is a magnet for gigabrains. And something that's not really appreciated by a lot of midwits like you and I is that if you have a gigantic brain, and I mean let's call it 3, 4 plus standard deviations above average at a minimum, you can apply that across multiple domains. One of the big signs of extremely high intelligence is the ability to very quickly learn. So you might have somebody that works at Tesla. They're working on FSD. Maybe they shift roles into the Optimus project. Then eventually fuck it, I kind of feel like a little bit of a break from robots. Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that somebody who's working on Optimus hand design or the electric motors is going to immediately become a world-class rocket engineer, but they could. The point is, however, there's a huge amount of overlap and transfer, and now people who wanted to work at one Musk company can more seamlessly shift to different projects, products, and technologies within that same empire if SpaceX and Tesla, which again, SpaceX includes XAI plus X, and inevitably, eventually Tesla as well. It's going to be much easier for Musk to retain these people in the empire and just have them move through different roles. You want to massively disrupt the global financial services industry? Well, guess what? X Money is now working on that as well. Why would anyone, other than they're suffering from extreme burnout and need a break, why would anyone, once they're in this empire, ever want to leave?
Elon knows more about factories than probably
anybody.
Like there's some people in China who have, Foxconn knows a lot about factories, So there are some people who know as much or probably even a little bit more about some aspects of it, but that's a true advantage of bringing those two teams together. And you saw it. People would go from one company to the other. Freeberg, my question for you, very acutely with your NASA hat and your background today, is 20 years ago, he started trying to get to space with SpaceX, and here we go. There's more rockets going off in a month now than there are days in the month for the entire country, and he's got rockets going up every 2 or 3 days. You can just basically hop on a SpaceX flight and get to space. Maybe you could just use your vision there to tell the audience, what could things look like in another 20 years if SpaceX continues at this cadence or even, goes faster because of AI?
Well, this week's a pretty important milestone for that point because we just launched Artemis 2 yesterday, which is man's returning to the moon. So the United States shipped this rocket with 4 astronauts on board. They're going to do an orbit around the Earth, head to the moon, come back around and come back to Earth in anticipation of landing on the moon in about 2 years. And getting to the moon, I think, is going to be very important, not just because there's this important social milestone and race happening on right now with China, but I think the moon could end up being kind of the next industrial frontier for humanity. And the reason...
Just take a moment and let that comment sink in. The moon could end up becoming the next industrial frontier for humanity. And who's paving the way? SpaceX. Untouched, unexplored, unsettled, undeveloped opportunity. Wide open.
Is if you can get to the moon has an extraordinary abundance of material that we can mine, process, and manufacture into goods. And ultimately, the cost to ship those goods back to the Earth is zero. it will cost less to move goods, manufactured goods, processed or precious metals from the moon to a specific point on Earth. It will cost less to do that than to ship it using any other terrestrial conventional method.
It's worth taking a moment to really let those implications sink in. Cheaper from the moon to Earth than anywhere on Earth, and I'm sure we're about to get a physics lesson as to exactly why. This means there's going to be an economic forcing function to make this happen. If it didn't make economic sense, it might be a fun side project, but not worth pursuing at commercial scale. But the incentive to industrialize the moon, it's there. Importantly though, in order to industrialize the moon, one needs to be able to launch a significant amount of mass to the moon and also do so at a very high cadence. And there's only one company, no pun intended, on Earth currently capable or within any reasonable time frame of many years, half a decade or more, of doing that: SpaceX.
Whether that's a boat, an airplane, or a railroad. And the reason is that on the moon, you can take advantage of the low gravity, it's about 1/6 the gravity, and the complete lack of an atmosphere, meaning that it's frictionless to move material off of the moon and very low energy to move it off of the moon. You do not need to use a rocket propellant with high energy like we have to do to move things off of the Earth. In fact, the design for moving material off of the moon is to use what's called a mass driver, which is like a train track, like a rail, like an electric rail. You kind of see these in, high-speed trains that work on kind of magnetic levitation. And you could put a package on that rail and use electricity to accelerate that package to 100 G-force, shoot it back to the Earth, or theoretically shoot it to Mars, and it will go to the exact point on the Earth you want it to go to, re-enters the atmosphere, and lands with a simple parachute where you want it to go. So we could run continuous mining, continuous manufacturing processes on the moon at a fraction of the cost of what it would take to do it here on Earth.
Are you guys hearing this shit and really getting it?
The biggest limiting factor, getting people to the moon. And that is largely solved or will be solved in the next few years by robotics. So I think that there's this pretty profound intersection with what's going on in robotics with this moment for space industrialization and moving to the moon. So, Tesla, I think 20 years from now is actually a more interesting story, whether they're the same independent company or the same company. I think we're going to look back one day and have this kind of laughing observation that Tesla started out as an electric car company.
100%.
Ended up becoming an autonomous car company. And the autonomous competency is what led to the robotics revolution.
He's spot on. Hilariously, by the way, there are people today that can see this. Friedberg, JCal, most people watching this channel. While there are others who are myopically focused on Tesla production and vehicles delivered, vehicle models, vehicle margins, vehicle, ignoring the massive development of FSD and then essentially transplanting that into Optimus. Tesla's long-term impact won't have been electric vehicles. It will be robotics and intelligence. And I mean four-wheel robots as well as bipedal robots with big brains and incredible capabilities. Imagine having previously owned Tesla stock, not seeing what was happening with FSD, the Optimus humanoid robot, the implications, sold because gross automotive margins or electric vehicle sales or Elon bad. And then spending the next 2+ decades watching this play out, the industrialization of the moon, millions of Optimus robots building out manufacturing, mining, refining facilities on the moon, heading to Mars, the Terafab project, the mass driver on the moon. I mean, holy fuck, bro. That's got to hurt.
And the robotics revolution, even if the socialists ban robotics on Earth and tell us no robots allowed, they're taking all the jobs, you could ship all those robots to the moon and they could get to work and create an entirely new manufacturing frontier for our civilization, for humanity. That frontier can manufacture precious metals and other goods and ship them back. You could manufacture semiconductors on the moon. All that's missing is the robots. So moving the robots to the moon or setting up the materials for robots to build themselves on the moon is kind of the first phase of this transition, asking about 20 years from now. And then the next phase is building this all out. So look, I think that this may not be, and it certainly won't be limited to just SpaceX, but SpaceX is demonstrating its capacity at being effectively the railroads. What the railroads were to the West and to the frontier in the West, in the last generation, SpaceX will be to the moon and ultimately to Mars. And there's going to be an extraordinary abundance of production that's going to come out of the moon. The moon has everything, by the way. And I'll say one more thing about SpaceX. SpaceX has also created, and this is going to be a big part of the valuation analysis that many are doing, they've created a backup to the internet. The internet is fundamentally limited by all of the nodes on the network and the connectivity amongst all those nodes. And that connectivity is largely driven by copper and fiber optic cable. So in space with the number of satellites going up with Starlink and to actually deploy data centers that can output data on those nodes on that network, SpaceX has largely built a backup internet. And that backup internet can coincide with the Earth's internet, but it creates this extraterrestrial communication network that gives us theoretically the ability to think about, hey, if governments collapse, if there's civilizational upheaval, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, this becomes, I think, a fundamentally kind of important technology infrastructure that's going to exist in parallel. So I'm pretty excited about like these two separate paths for SpaceX and where they intersect with Tesla. I think it's pretty profound at the moment.
So Chamath, JCal, and seemingly Friedberg all see a lot of overlap and synergies between SpaceX and Tesla. Imagine that.
The amount of businesses I think that can get created and the amount of value that will be created on top of SpaceX's shoulders is vast. It's the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. And it's going to create enormous opportunities for people who are smart and resourceful.
He ain't wrong.
But on the moon, there's everything else. There's aluminum, there's silicon, there's palladium, there's platinum, there's gold, there's everything you possibly need. So I think as we do the calculus on all of this, we'll end up realizing that the moon is probably the best frontier. One of the biggest issues is dissipating heat because you don't have an atmosphere, but theoretically you could recapture that heat and use like helium gas or something to turn a turbine and actually run production of even more electricity. You just put a couple solar panels out. I did the math on this. It's like 500 square meters of solar panels will let you run a 4-kilometer mass driver to ship material back to the Earth every 10 to 15 minutes. 1 ton of material every 10 to 15 minutes.
On the sled you described earlier that Elon's been talking about as well. Yeah.
So you could think about having autonomous mining vehicles deployed on the moon, processing the ore, and then sending completely processed material back. And then for a heat shield for re-entry to the Earth, you just use moon rock. You only need about 15 centimeters of moon rock at the front of the package. And then that'll burn up when it re-enters the atmosphere and the package, kind of parachutes down and lands where you want it to land in your industrial shipyard or whatever. So there's just like, I think we'll continue to kind of iterate on this. I'm speculating in a bunch of different ways.
The beginning of the beginning.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, can you imagine having a moon base in America?
Imagine JCal
permanently present on the moon is just, and factories on the moon is just wild to consider.
Wild.
Can you guys just imagine like the middle or the early 19th century, like the late 1700s, early 1800s in America, and there's like all this land out on the West, and like whatever people were contemplating in that moment about what they were going to go do with that land on the West, and they started to travel west, their minds would have been blown to see what happened 100 years later, or now 150 years later. It's just, that's the moment that we're at right now, and the railroads are being built to get us to this next great frontier. They're being laid out before us. And the opportunity is really limited only by our imagination. And before, we would have never been able to tackle these great frontiers. But this magical new technology came about called robots. And these robots are going to allow us to actually make use of these frontiers and explore them and develop them. And that's why this is such an incredible moment where this intersection of autonomy and robotics and space traversal kind of drive forward humanity into this new era. And it's, again, this is not a zero-sum game. This is expanding humanity's potential, expanding production, which is so different than the way the socialists on Earth are talking about it, where everyone's fighting against progress.
Zero-sum game.
Because they think that progress is some people taking things from other people. And the truth is, it's about everyone building stuff that's new and everyone benefiting from this.
I'm going to open a hotel casino in space.
He had to. Now, holy shit, what an exciting future. How can you not be fired up about this? And also separately, extremely excited about the potential of SpaceX going public and then eventually folding into Tesla or vice versa. Obviously, this happens at some point, right? 99.99999% according to Chamath, and I completely agree. We have a very exciting few decades ahead. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 has been part of my daily health protocol for almost half a decade. It's packed full of vitamins and minerals and helps me fill in nutritional gaps while supporting energy, digestion, and immune function. It also has prebiotics and probiotics to promote gut health. I take my health very seriously, and so should you. Try AG1 today by visiting drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment and enjoy a free welcome kit with vitamin D3 plus K2 and AG1 travel packs. That's drinkag1.com/SMR.